Welcome, everybody, to another edition of Kevin's Commentary. This week we have a very special guest. This young guy has done a tremendous job with the track and field program at the University of Wyoming, and they have a very big weekend coming up. It's an outreach event at Gillette. We're talking about Bryan Berryhill, head coach for the Wyoming track and field program. And Bryan, I know this is an event that you, the track team, look very forward to.
We do. This will be our third year going up there, and the town of Gillette and the Campbell County Rec Center have been very welcoming. It's a great facility. We've gotten some really good marks out of this meet the last couple of years, and it's something that we definitely circle on our schedule because it's the only dual meet we have all year, and Montana State's a great team.
Of course, I think one part of it that is interesting is the elevation, and tell us a little bit about how that works into the program.
Yeah, you know, we NCAA track and field, we have altitude adjustments, whether it's for the sprints or the distance races, and you go to a lower altitude and those are minimized a little bit. So it's definitely nice for us to get an opportunity to go down to a lower elevation and compete. It's even good for the sprinters because they get less time added onto their sprints because the altitude, they add time to sprints, they take times off for the distance events. So very, very nice to be able to get down to lower altitude.
Of course, the outreach is very important to the athletics department, and I think an interesting part of this weekend will be some of your track athletes are going over to Hewlett to read to the young kids. How did that work out?
Yeah, last year we read in the Gillette schools, and our kids loved it. They thought it was one of the best things they did all year, and they were excited to go back this year. And I had the opportunity to go up to Hewlett this past fall for the first time, and was just really impressed with that part of Wyoming. I hadn't been to the northeast corner of Wyoming, and I was just really impressed with the town of Hewlett and Devil's Tower, that whole location. And so I thought it'd be kind of neat for the team to get to see that area and go to maybe a little bit of a smaller town that doesn't get very many Wyoming athletes up there.
Let's talk about your Wyoming athletes. I think it's very impressive. Of course, track probably has the biggest roster of any of the programs within the athletics department, almost 100 athletes. Half of those athletes are from the state of Wyoming. I know you're very proud of that. How does that come about?
We're very fortunate in our sport. The state of Wyoming produces a lot of very good track and field athletes. It's not only that just 50% of our roster are Wyoming student athletes. A lot of our high-end performers are from the state of Wyoming, and we get a lot of production out of those student athletes. And the high school coaches here in the state have a great reputation. They do a fabulous job of getting these kids ready to compete at the next level. So I feel very fortunate as the head coach at the University of Wyoming to be able to recruit the state and know that we're going to get kids that are going to help us get to where we want to go.
And you are getting to where you want to go. I know it's probably slower than you would like, but you've been very pleased with the performances you've seen out of a lot of your younger athletes.
Yeah, like you talked about, it's a slower process than what you want it to be, but I do feel like we're making progress. And we have some great leaders on the team, though. We got Kirsten Thomas and Kyle Sullivan, and those guys have kind of set the marker of what we want to be. And then we've gone out, the assistant coaches have done a phenomenal job recruiting, and we brought in a very, very talented freshman class. But more importantly than just being talented, they know how to compete. They want to compete. They're not scared to go out there and compete. And I've talked at our team meetings how last year we kind of got beat up by Montana State, and I had one of the freshmen in my office today, and she had said that all the freshmen already got together, and they said that's not happening again. And that's just kind of their mentality. They're very, very competitive as well as talented.
I know it's difficult sometimes to change the culture, especially when you have so many student athletes. It seems that you're happier and happier with how the culture is changing within your program.
Yeah, I feel like each year we're becoming a closer team, and we're worrying more about the team than the individual performance. And sometimes that is difficult. Track and field's often looked at as an individual sport outside of the conference championships. Then all of a sudden it's a team sport. And, we've really worked hard as a coaching staff to get this team to buy into each other as much as their self. And I think it's neat. We go to any meet now, and the kids come up and say, how's the team doing? How's the team doing? So I really feel like we're getting that culture that they're carrying how the University of Wyoming track and field team's doing as much as they are about how they did that day. And they're not judging the day just based on whether their performance was good. It's, well, I did good, but the team didn't, so I don't feel real good about today. And I do feel like, again, I mentioned Kirsten Thomas and Kyle Sullivan and Scott Carter. Those guys have gone a long ways to help us get where we are as far as that culture goes.
I know you're pleased where you are, and I know you want to get to an even different place. What has to happen within the program for you to get to the point where you're really satisfied? And I know coaches never get satisfied, but where you're pleased where you are?
We got to continue to recruit. We got to continue to get the best kids in the state of Wyoming and the best kids in the region and the best kids in the country, and then across the world. We've had some good international kids recently too, and so we got to continue to recruit well. We got to continue to get the message across to the kids that the team performance is extremely important. I talked about that a second ago. It's hard in the sport to get the kids to buy into that team atmosphere, so we got to continue to cultivate that. We got to continue to grow the roster and get the talent we need.
Bryan, thanks for being with us. Best of luck, not only Saturday in Gillette, but for the rest of the season.
Thank you.
Bryan Berryhill, our guest today. Until next time, thanks for being with us.